Thanks for tuning in to Prime Sports NASCAR on the Prime Sports Radio Network as we finally have some NASCAR race activity to talk about. And lo and behold, it's been, 48 hours, less than 48 hours since the race ended. And we've got another race that's going to be coming up in a little bit more than 24 hours. CJ, as we welcome in CJ Redoon from RotoWire. And CJ, the craziness of this season is going to be official when we start watching racing tomorrow night, which we hope we'll be able to watch. Whether, I guess, what is the right term? Whether, no, whether, we're going to have a race, whether
rain delay.
There you go. Weather permitting.
Weather. All right.
So because the weather, Eric was saying that the weather didn't look too good.
No, it does not. Does not look good at all. Doesn't look good for tonight's race with the Xfinity cars, and looks just as bad tomorrow for Cup as well. So we'll see. They actually moved up the start time for Xfinity today. Oddly enough, we've been asking them to do that for a long time, but I'm not so sure it's going to make that much of a difference. Both nights are supposed to have rain and thunderstorms in the evening.
All right. So well, let's wrap up what happened in the first of two Darlington races, the Real Heroes 400. Kevin Harvick got to win, so my unofficial pick won. How about that? The unofficial pick means that I actually wagered money on it, and I made money. So that's good, but because it was an unknown, we weren't going to put our official picks in. But we will have official picks for Wednesday because this was almost like a setup race. Now we have a little bit more data to go on.
We do have a little bit more data. It'll be interesting though, because, assuming it doesn't rain, assuming Xfinity gets to go, the track is going to be a little bit different. They had zero rubber on the track on Sunday. They just went at it cold, no practice, no qualifying. This time around, the rain will wash some of it away, but at least there will have been some cars on track, obviously themselves on Sunday. Maybe Xfinity, the shorter race tomorrow night too, and also going to be, if we get it, presuming the rain doesn't come, it's going to be dark as well, not going to be as hot. So the surface is going to be different than what they experienced on Sunday.
But as we noted on Sunday, Eric and I had previously talked about wanting to see what Darlington would look like during the daytime, because the night races we were getting once a year at Darlington were pretty boring. And lo and behold, we get day racing, and the race on Sunday was boring.
Yeah, I would agree. I would have expected more. Would have expected more tire issues. We had a few, but I mean, Kevin Harvick comes out and dominates 159 laps led. You've got Brad Keselowski, another Ford that was out there out front for 80 some laps and in a 293 mile race. Very few incidents. I think only 5 cars dropped out. Probably the most exciting thing, I guess, would have been the crash off of turn 1 in the first lap with Ricky Stenhouse. But, after that,
it was all downhill
Jimmy
after
Johnson's
that.
Braden fade when. Yeah, exactly right. Jimmy Johnson in the lead, coming to a potential rare stage win for him, making a huge mistake trying to lap a car. That was probably the end of the excitement at that point. It was just basically Harvick's to walk away with from that point on.
And that's you predicted. You thought whoever would win the race was going to win going away, and that's exactly what Kevin Harvick did. He's the favorite by far. Remember, we talked about this also on Sunday. Sunday was the day to get a bargain out there, because the favorites were 6-1, 7-1. Harvick was 8-1. Now, not so much. Now the favorite Kevin Harvick is back at favorite NASCAR levels at 4-1. So if he goes back and wins again, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that. But if Harvick doesn't win so far, the odds are still pretty much a bargain. We'll go into that. But Harvick's chances of winning 2 straight, what's the reason why we won't think that that's possible, considering how well he raced just a few days prior?
I don't think it's possible, number one, because everybody else has got their game face on now. They've got their experience under their belts. He had an advantage just based on the way that he approaches the event. We all knew that he was going to be very tough to beat under these circumstances just because he's a veteran. He's got a lot of experience. He's got a great relationship with his crew. They set that car up very well right at the beginning. Some of the other guys that probably could have challenged him didn't have the setups right away. They didn't have the communication with their crew members to make all the right moves throughout the race. Those who did challenge him, Brad Keselowski was out front, but he lost in the final stage, not able to make the right adjustments. I think Kyle Busch may have been able to get up there and challenge him had he not started from the back and had so many problems. Those guys are going to be on their game more so than they were on Sunday. So Wednesday is going to be much more challenging for Harvick. Plus the fact, 4-1 odds, that doesn't take into account that they're inverting the top 20 for the starting position, and it's a shorter race too. So think of Harvick starting from 20th position. He started 6th on Sunday. He's going to have to deal with a lot more traffic early on to come through to come back and dominate again. So those are narrow odds considering everything that's going to transfer for Wednesday.
Wait, which race is the shorter race?
Wednesday. Yeah.
So why are they calling that the 500?
500 kilometers, 311 miles, 311-ish miles. Sunday's race was 400 miles. So you've got 89, 90-ish miles shorter distance to cover on Wednesday.
So they're saying the 400 on Sunday was miles and the 500 is kilometers?
You're exactly
And we're
right.
supposed to figure this out on our own.
I have the help of the press.
I know. But the regular fans, you could see how that would confuse them.
Yeah, no. Well, no kidding, because it's the Darlington 500. Historically, it's been a 500-mile race on Labor Day weekend. It's a tradition of NASCAR. So you're going to call it the Toyota 500. It's going to be one of NASCAR's traditional super speedways, old school super speedway, and then you're going to change the distance to kilometers. Yeah, I wouldn't expect many people to pick up on that.
Okay, now let's find out who could take over for Harvick and win this race. Now, Bowman was surprisingly strong, but I think at this point we're gonna have to put Alex Bowman into the Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney territory of really young, talented drivers that may have a serious chance to win a championship this year if he keeps this up. Finishing a strong second, but he started second, so like you said, he's gonna also have to go back like Harvick. But Bowman looks strong at 7-1. So besides the traffic, what do you think about his chances? Hold on. Your Skype's not coming in very well. A little scratchy.
Uh-oh.
All right, go ahead.
Am I back? All right. So I think he's a good value. I would like to see a little bit better odds for him, but I think he's a better value at this point than Harvick. He ran really well on Sunday and was challenging. All of the Hendrick cars actually looked very strong. So if they can just avoid the mistakes that they made on Sunday, Bowman didn't make many mistakes, but if he can make a few more right calls in terms of getting his setup right, move through that traffic pretty quickly. He led 41 laps on Sunday. I don't see any reason why he couldn't be at the front again on Wednesday.
Okay, so let's stick with Hendrick then. Chase Elliott will be 10-1. He finished a strong 4th. So, and this was, I believe, Eric's pick. I think he had Chase Elliott. So what do you think about Chase Elliott at 10-1?
Chase Elliott's another good option. Again, I think for both he and Bowman, if Hendrick can make the right calls, they're going to be very strong. Elliott's just the kind of driver that naturally takes to this kind of track. He won in the Xfinity Series here, if I'm not mistaken. 4th place finish. It was a relatively quiet day for him, but Hendrick cars, if you remember at the very beginning of the race, were the strongest ones that were out there besides Harvick. So they just have a little bit of work to do on their setups and make the right calls throughout the race consistently. Don't make any mistakes, and they're going to be up there at the front as well. I think Bowman and Chase Elliott are two extremely good bets.
All right, now Jimmy is 16-1, and the thing that and Jimmy was my sleeper, and I felt real good, obviously, the way things were going until the mistake. He's the only one who had an accident, and who knows what would have happened if he avoided the accident. But this is the problem I'm having with Jimmy now. First of all, it was about just getting a car to get up front. Now he's got a car, it appears, that can lead laps Then he goes ahead and does things that we just don't see Jimmy Johnson do. It's like as soon as it happened and we looked at the replay, it was like, what are you doing? I mean, why would you even get that close to that car? It just doesn't. That's the issue I have. Other than maybe I could sit back and go, all right, well, maybe I'll just give him the benefit of the doubt. He is older, I don't know, and he had all this time off. Maybe he just needed a race to get back into the swing of things, and he'll be better for it on Wednesday night.
He'll be better for it on Wednesday night, but I think he's been in such a dry spell for so long. He's too anxious, so he's going back to making those impulsive mistakes, and that's exactly what it was. And he could have walked away with that stage win and probably could have taken the second one as well. To Wednesday, that one mistake not only ruined that race, knocked him out of it, but I think it ruins Wednesday's race as well, because now he's starting with something like 37th. He's not in a good position. He's going to have to come all the way through the field and not make those same mistakes. And for the future, once he gets back onto kind of level footing and he's able to qualify and kind of start up front and can at least start where the car has the potential to start for him, versus where he'll start on Wednesday, I think he's really got to dial it back. He's got to be a little bit more calm, I think, than he's been. I think that dry spell is starting to catch up with him, and when he gets in the lead and he can smell blood in the water or whatever, I think he's just having those brain fade moments, and they're costing him dearly.
He might just have to win the way if I look at a golf analogy, a player that is trying too hard or feels the pressure and especially in a big event or for whatever reason, and they're better off winning when they are maybe 5 strokes off the lead going into the final round, and they check in early, let everybody else fall apart behind them, that kind of thing. Maybe Jimmy needs to win the way like Brad Keselowski wins, just lead the final 30 laps, steal a race, something like that.
Yeah, make the right call for that last green, white, checkered, or what have you, that last restart, get yourself good track position, kind of come out of nowhere, break that seal, and then have the confidence there going forward. Then the pressure's off. You can just, you got to win in your final year. You can just go and fight for it. Do what you do best.
Okay, Hamlin and Kyle, they're 7-1. They were the favorites, co-favorites on Sunday. Hamlin finished a strong 5th. Kyle was up and down, but you think Kyle, well, his starting position will be better, correct?
Well, it's going to be based on where he finished. So,
he finished 26th.
Yeah, he's going to start. 26th.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to.
How does that work?
So,
how does the new starting positions work?
For Wednesday, the top 20 finishers from Sunday are going to be inverted, which is why Harvick's starting 20th. And then you got Ryan Preece, who finished 20th. He's going to start on pole. Then after that, it's you start when you finish. So that's why Johnson's back in 37th, and then Kyle's going to be starting 26th.
Okay. So do you think that affects Kyle? If you're just comparing Hamlin and Kyle, would you take Hamlin?
Well, yeah, I would, because Hamlin had a nicer race, more consistent, and didn't run into the same trouble that Kyle did, and he finished 5th. Kyle's got to overcome the same challenges that he overcame on Sunday, because he failed inspection twice and had to start at the rear. So he had to come from the rear. He made his way all the way up to the top 10 and probably looked like he could have challenged up there, but then he had tire issues, brushed the wall, etc. He was probably trying a little bit too hard, overcompensate. But it's kind of tough to put a choice between them because the starting positions they're made up as they are, and we all know that Kyle Busch can come from the back and win. But with Hamlin starting 5th, he definitely has an advantage.
Okay, Truex 8-1 and Logano 9-1. By the way, where does Hamlin start?
Hamlin's going to start
15th.
15th, if I'm doing my math right.
So okay, so that's the inverted top 20. Okay, Truex was 6th, but again, another quiet 6th for Truex. I am still going to do what I said from the beginning of the season. I am not touching Martin Truex Jr. at any given week to win any race until he wins. I'm just not going to do it. Logano, meanwhile, finished a disappointing 18th.
Yeah, Logano was terribly disappointing, but his finish was what was disappointing. It wasn't like the race was totally disappointing. I think he was just a little bit off. Excuse me. He was a little bit off, certainly from Keselowski. Keselowski seemed to have hit it right on right away. Logano had a little bit more work to do, started at the front, faded pretty quickly, but he also came back. He was coming and going, ended up finishing lower than probably he should have based on his equipment, but he's got a really good starting position for Wednesday. I think he's going to make the changes that need to be made to have a better race on Wednesday. He was my pick. I'm still kind of high on him, though Keselowski also pops more on the radar, obviously, just because of what he was able to do. But you're right. With Truex, he's kind of been hanging around that top 5 pretty much all season now. Here's another race where, very quiet race, 6th. He was fast, certainly. But was he out there dominating kind of like the Truex of a year or two ago that we know? Not so much. So get once his season turning the right way.
All right, you broke out there at the end, so I'll just pick it back up. Keselowski 8-1. He won stage number 2. He was on the pole. He finished 13th here. So, and then let's see. Does that mean that he'll start 3rd?
He will
7th,
start 7th,
okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
And
yep. I'm sorry, 8th. I'm
okay.
one off.
But he was second, leading 80 laps. Definitely, since I had Harvick, and I would try to figure out whatever more than midway through the race, going into the final stage. Of course, Keselowski entered the final stage after winning stage 2. He was the only driver that scared me, as you know, considering I had Harvick. Once Keselowski just started to fade, that was it. I didn't feel like, of course, the whole deal with Bowman and Harvick on the restart, that last restart, that was for everything, which was pretty sad. That with 30 laps to go, 35 laps to go, that whoever won that, whoever who led that first lap after that restart was going to end up winning the race. That's how boring the race was in general. But Keselowski has got to be. I mean, I'm looking at 4 other drivers with better odds than Keselowski. I got to feel pretty good if I'm Keselowski at 8-1.
Yeah, I think Keselowski is an excellent choice this week. Extremely strong. Did not finish anywhere near what that car was capable of. He's going to have a better starting position on Wednesday. He has fewer changes that he needs to make than any of the other Penske guys, plus the fact that he was out there and led 80 laps on Sunday. He's very good at Darlington. There's a lot going right for him on Wednesday. He's definitely the Penske driver. If you're going to go with the Penske driver, he's definitely the one that you want. And I think Ford is going to be strong again. Their main competition is probably going to be coming from the Hendrick.
And Kurt Busch 14-1 finished a strong 3rd. This is considering he started 22nd. This has been a good track for Kurt lately. So now he was never like Elliott, like Truex, a few of those others, even though they finished in the top 6 or 7, they never appeared like they were going to contend for the win. But still, if you don't have Kevin Harvick dominating a Wednesday night's race, these are the drivers that will have a chance. And Kurt Busch, 14-1, those are good odds. We have to take Kurt Busch this week with those odds, don't we?
Absolutely. Kurt Busch at Darlington, 14-1. I'm not sure I care what car he's in or where he's starting. He's been very good at Darlington recently. This has been an excellent track, as you said, and Sunday's race was proof of that. He came from 22nd position in completely unknown circumstances up there to finish 3rd, and the 2 cars that were ahead of him were 2 of the most dominant cars on the day. So that's no small feat coming from Kurt Busch. He loves this track, and hopefully he can take one step further on Wednesday. It'd be cool to see another car.
Let's go through the drivers who finished in the top 10. The rest of the drivers, you have 22-1 shot Eric Jones, who was the defending champ from last year, and he started 20th. You have Matt Kenseth, typical Matt Kenseth fashion, did absolutely nothing and finished 10th. He's 30-1. So hey, he's got to be really good in fantasy right now, considering how far back he probably is, where you can get him, and he could probably finish in the top 10 again. Reddick finishing 7th was a huge surprise at 40-1. And then you also had Nemechek finishing 9th, and he's 150-1. So how about those drivers that finished in the top 10?
Kenseth, wouldn't have put him as a solid bet on Sunday. Probably a little bit more confidence, but more from a fantasy perspective. I don't think he's going to come out and win the race on Wednesday. But, to come away with a top 10 on his first time back after starting 12th, that's really good. I've been high on John Hunter Nemechek since he came into the series. I know it's only 5 races old now, but I think this kid's got a lot of potential behind him, and I think he's going to be in for some really good things. And a ninth in his first outing or in Sunday's outing at Darlington is a really good result for him. I thought Eric Jones had a little bit more pace there mid-race than probably where he finished. He probably could have had more like a top 5 kind of car. He's another one that just has very few adjustments that he's going to have to make, so I think he's a good choice. And then Tyler Reddick was certainly the most surprising to me without question. I did not expect him to be up front, and when he came up front, I thought it was just a matter of time before something, he'd make a miss, they'd make a miss on pit road or have a setup change that didn't go right, and he would fade back, but he never actually did. He stayed within contention for the top 10 the entire time, finished 7th. Out of that bunch, certainly though, you got to go with Eric Jones, but beside that, Nemechek, he's not a bad long shot.
Okay, Byron 22-1 won stage 1. But he was non-existent after that. He had some issues. Ryan Blaney, once again, just does not take to this track. So he finished 16th. He's 25-1. DiBenedetto started 3rd, finished 14th at 50-1. What about those guys?
DiBenedetto, I think, is probably the best of those bunches. He's in a Ford. He's in a Penske Ford. It's Wood Brothers, but they have a relationship. We all know that, and he's been doing really well. So I think DiBenedetto, certainly of that bunch, is the way to go. Ryan Blaney surprised me. I know he's not great at Darlington, but every single time they went to pit road, he was the last car off. They must have really screwed up the settings on that car to start off with, and were just taking big swings at it every time because they could not get their car off of pit road. They've got big changes that they've got to make for Wednesday, and I think they're probably playing a guessing game going into that. So certainly of that bunch, I would go with Matt DiBenedetto. He's got more momentum behind him, and he's got good
do you even consider a long shot like Boyer at 60-1, Newman at 90-1, or anybody else?
Sure, I would consider both of them. I'd probably go with Boyer a little bit more. I think he has the potential to surprise. He's hit or miss, though. It's not anything that you can go to the bank on. Not really consistent at this track. 17th on Sunday, Newman. It was great to see him back, a solid top 15 there for him on his return. But, if you're going to go with one of those guys, you might as well go with Kenseth because Kenseth finished higher and it's going to have a better starting position. So, not a better starting position. He'll be in better position, I should say, to move forward and get another top 10. But again, I don't think we're talking about guys that are going to win the race at this point. I think we've already talked about those guys. The ones that are going to come forth and surprise should anything happen are probably more like the John Hunter Nemechek, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones kind of guys, Kurt Busch even. I think further back, beyond the top 10, top 8-ish, probably even, that finished on Sunday. And you're talking
because this is the type of race where track where you just have to have, even if just in the first stage, you have to know that you have a good car, and then it becomes who's going to get off pit road first. That's really all it's going to be, a combination of you have to have a top 5 car, and then it's all about who comes off pit road first, gets that outside restarting position, and whoever does is more than likely going to win the race. It's terrible. I mean, it's just, I understand why they're doing 2 races here. I completely get it, but they have got to fix this racetrack.
Yeah, it's narrow. It's tough to pass. I mean, that's why you had a crash on lap 1. That's why Jimmy Johnson crashed coming to the stage win, and that's why Kevin Harvick dominated, because he had that first pit stall, or that last pit stall, right before you come off. And every single time, while Blaney was last off of it, Harvick was first off of it, and that's why he ended up winning. So yeah, we're likely going to see more of the same on Wednesday. I think it's going to be tough for Harvick to repeat, but you're probably looking again at that top 6 to 8, the way they finished on Sunday for
and Harvick won't have that number 1 pit stall either, right?
Correct. Yeah, Ryan Preece gets the choice since he's technically on
So
pole.
that's going to be a huge difference
Yep.
for Kevin Harvick. Yeah. Okay. Yep. CJ, rotowire.com. What are you doing right now?
You got it. We got our fantasy preview is going to be going up today, if not first thing tomorrow. And then within 24 hours, sometime Thursday, if not Wednesday night, probably Thursday, we'll have a recap up for Wednesday before we get ready for another fantasy preview of Charlotte coming up this weekend.
CJ, appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Friday when we have both you and Eric on once again to recap the race on Wednesday, if they do race on Wednesday or Thursday, and then preview the Coke 600 on Sunday.
Awesome. Sounds good.
You got it.
Thanks
Take care, CJ.